Well, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. We'll keep it pretty informal here. I'm just very, very pleased that two of my good friends and colleagues and frankly thoughtful members of the Republican Party are willing to suggest that Kurt Schrader might be bipartisan enough to be a good congressman. And certainly we need that in Washington, D.C. these days. I guess I'll just turn it directly over to Frank and then to Lane for a few comments.
Great. Well, Kurt, I'm truly honored to be here and formally endorse your candidacy. As we all know in this building, relationships are what make the process work. And relationships work only when you have trust. And I think where I'm coming from in this endorsement is having had that relationship with Senator Schrader, and it's a relationship that in fact has been built on trust. And without that component, the legislative process just doesn't work very well. The other thing that I would share with you, and it's probably a little known piece of information, some of you that were here in 2003 might have a recollection of this, if even you were aware of it. As you recall, we were tied in the Senate 15-15, and the organization of the Senate took some time to accomplish. And who was going to be the presiding officer, who was going to chair committees, who was going to be co-chair of Ways and Means. And I think this is a reflection of Senator Schrader, and one of the reasons that I am endorsing him is it was the consensus within our Republican caucus to appoint Senator Schrader as co-chair, the Senate co-chair of Ways and Means. And that's really an unusual recognition, I believe, of his those elements that I call trust and relationships, and the way he approaches fiscal things. So, really a pretty easy call for me as a Republican to endorse Senator Schrader.
Thanks, Frank, very, very much.
Go get him.
Yes, sir.
It's my pleasure to second Senator Morse's endorsement of Kurt Schrader in the 5th Congressional race. I'd say a few things. Number one, speaking as a lifelong resident of the 5th Congressional District, that's even before there was a 5th Congressional District, I think Kurt Schrader fits this district to a T in terms of his background, his temperament, his approach to public policy and public service. I think I'd be hard pressed to think of a candidate that better fits with the 5th Congressional District. So I think number one, that is an impressive credential and speaks well of his candidacy. Also, like Frank, I have served with Kurt in the legislature. We served in the House together, and so I've had the opportunity to see him in action. So my endorsement of him in this case is not just based on what I've learned about him since he announced his candidacy, but goes back to the 1997 Oregon legislative session when we were both freshmen in the same term. Interestingly, my relationship with Kurt changed in 2004 when I assumed control as director of the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And now, from colleague, I became supplicant, and dependent now on Kurt and his role as co-chair of the Ways and Means Committee for budget and for policy option packages with fiscal impacts. And I can tell you, number one, Kurt is a straight shooter when it comes to matters of fiscal policy. He asks hard questions. He expects correct answers and information. I never felt when I was going to the Ways and Means Committee with an ask that I was going to be given a free ride. And Kurt never disappointed me in that expectation. That he was always so careful in terms of his management of the public dollars with which he was entrusted in his role as co-chair. I think it goes without saying, but of course you always say that when you're about to say something, that at the federal level, we are coming into a time when we need clear-eyed thinkers, particularly on matters of fiscal policy and spending and taxes. And Kurt has a background here and a record in the state that commends him, I think, head and shoulders, not only above the field, but above probably most candidates nationwide in terms of what he will bring to Congress in a very timely way. So for all those reasons, I'm very pleased to stand up here with my good friend Frank Morse in our endorsement together of Kurt Schrader for Congress.
Thank you, Lynn. Well, why don't we